The moment I realized my blind date was my CEO's daughter, I nearly choked on my water. Her familiar smile suddenly made perfect sense, the same confident curve of the lips I'd seen in countless company meetings, just on a younger face. As our eyes locked across the table, I knew my career and love life were about to collide in ways I never imagined. But what happened next would change everything. Hey everyone! If you're enjoying this story so far, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more unexpected twists and turns in life and love. Your support means everything. I never planned to let my boss meddle in my love life. In fact, I'd spent 3 years at Meridian Technologies carefully building a reputation as James Chen, the focused project manager who lived for his work. Dating wasn't even on my radar, not after what happened with Melissa. "James, you need to get out more," Victoria Marshall said one Friday afternoon, leaning against my office doorframe. As the CEO of Meridian, Victoria commanded respect without demanding it, a rare quality that made her both intimidating and approachable. I glanced up from my computer, where I'd been finalizing the quarterly reports. "I get out plenty," I lied, knowing full well my apartment and this office were the only 2 places I'd seen in weeks. Victoria rolled her eyes. "The coffee shop across the street doesn't count." She stepped into my office, closing the door behind her. "I've known you for 3 years, and in that time, I've watched you pour everything into this company." "That's my job," I replied, straightening the already perfect stack of papers on my desk. "Your job isn't to forget you're human." Victoria sat down across from me, her expression softening. "Look, I know someone. She's smart, ambitious, funny." "I'm not interested in being set up," I interrupted, perhaps too quickly. Victoria studied me for a moment. "James, whatever happened before you came to Meridian, whatever made you build these walls, it's okay to move past it." I felt my chest tighten. Victoria didn't know about Melissa, about the engagement that ended 2 weeks before the wedding when I found her with my best friend. Nobody at Meridian knew that story. "Just one date," Victoria pressed. "Saturday night, 8 p.m., at Luciana's. If it's terrible, I'll never mention your personal life again." Maybe it was exhaustion from the 60-hour work week, or maybe some part of me recognized I couldn't hide forever. Either way, I found myself nodding. "Fine. One date." Victoria's smile was triumphant. "Perfect. Her name is Emma. Just tell the host you're meeting someone." I spent the next day alternating between regretting my decision and trying to remember how dating worked. By the time Saturday evening arrived, I'd changed my outfit 4 times before settling on a navy button-down and dark jeans, casual enough to suggest I hadn't overthought this, but nice enough to show respect. Luciana's was an upscale Italian restaurant downtown, the kind with soft lighting and private booths. As I gave my name to the host, I noticed my palms were sweating. Pathetic. I was 32 years old, leading multi-million-dollar projects, yet here I was, nervous about a blind date like a teenager. "Your party is already seated," the host informed me, leading me through the restaurant. As we approached a corner booth, I saw her, a woman with dark hair cascading over one shoulder, studying the wine list. When she looked up, I froze mid-step. I knew those eyes. They were Victoria's eyes, the same warm brown with flecks of gold, but on a younger face. The host was saying something, but all I could hear was the blood rushing in my ears as realization dawned. My blind date was my CEO's daughter. "You must be James," she said, extending her hand. "I'm Emma Marshall." I shook her hand on autopilot, my mind racing. Victoria had never mentioned having a daughter. In 3 years, not once. There were no family photos in her office, no casual mentions of parenthood. "It's nice to meet you," I managed, sliding into the booth across from her. "I have to admit, I didn't realize Victoria was your mother." Emma's laugh was genuine, lacking the awkwardness I felt. "She doesn't advertise it. We have a complicated relationship." She tilted her head, studying me. Did she not tell you who I was? She just said your name was Emma. Classic Victoria, Emma sighed, though there was fondness in her voice. Always with the strategic omissions. The waiter arrived with water, giving me a moment to collect myself. Emma was stunning, that much was undeniable. She had her mother's confidence but a warmth that was entirely her own. Her dark blue dress complemented her olive skin, and when she smiled, small dimples appeared that Victoria didn't have. So, I began after ordering a glass of wine. What do you do? I'm a pediatric surgeon, Emma replied. At Metropolitan Children's Hospital. I nearly choked on my water. Not only was she beautiful, but she saved children's lives for a living. Meanwhile, I spent my days in spreadsheets and meetings. That's impressive, I said, feeling increasingly out of my depth. Emma waved dismissively. It's just my job. What about you? Mom says you're some kind of miracle worker at Meridian. I'm just a project manager, I said, surprised Victoria had spoken about me. Nothing as important as what you do. Don't do that, Emma said, her expression suddenly serious. Don't diminish your work. Mom says you turned around the Westfield account when everyone thought it was a lost cause. I felt heat rise to my face. She talks about work with you? Only the parts she's proud of, Emma replied, her eyes meeting mine. And apparently, she's proud of you. Something shifted between us then, a mutual recognition that whatever game Victoria was playing by setting us up, we were both pawns in it. Yet instead of making things awkward, it created an unexpected bond. The conversation flowed easily after that. Emma told me about growing up with Victoria as a mother, the high expectations, the boarding schools, the complicated path to finding her own identity separate from her powerful mother. I shared stories about my 3 years at Meridian, carefully avoiding any mention of my life before. You're very good at deflecting, Emma noted as we shared a tiramisu. Every time I ask about your past, you redirect to a work anecdote. I set down my fork, caught off guard by her directness. I didn't realize I was being so transparent. Surgeon, she reminded me with a gentle smile. I'm trained to notice details. She leaned forward. Look, I get it. We all have things we'd rather not talk about. But I'm curious about you, James Chen. The real you, not just the miracle worker my mother brags about. Maybe it was the wine, or maybe it was those eyes that somehow managed to be both challenging and kind, but I found myself telling her about Melissa. About finding her with my best friend 2 weeks before our wedding. About selling the house we'd bought together and moving across the country to start over. That's why I threw myself into work, I concluded. It was the only thing that made sense when everything else fell apart. Emma reached across the table, her fingers lightly touching mine. Thank you for telling me that. I haven't told anyone at Meridian, I admitted. Not even your mother. Your secret's safe with me, she promised. Then, with a mischievous smile, she added, though I might have to reconsider if you don't agree to a second date. I laughed, surprised by how much I wanted that second date. Are you blackmailing me, Dr. Marshall? Absolutely, she replied without hesitation. Is it working? Completely. We exchanged numbers as we left the restaurant, and I walked her to her car despite her protests that she was perfectly capable of walking half a block alone. I had a really good time tonight, I said, suddenly feeling awkward again. Me too, Emma replied. She hesitated, then rose on her tiptoes to kiss my cheek. Call me tomorrow? I nodded, watching as she drove away, my cheek still warm from her lips. Monday morning arrived with a mixture of dread and anticipation. I'd spent Sunday texting with Emma, making plans for our second date, but now I had to face Victoria. Did she know we'd hit it off? Was this her plan all along? I didn't have to wait long to find out. Victoria appeared in my doorway at precisely 9:15 a.m., coffee in hand and a knowing smile on her face. "Good morning, James," she said, closing the door behind her. "How was your weekend?" I kept my expression neutral. "Productive. I finished the proposal for the Nakamura project." Victoria sipped her coffee. "Anything else interesting happen?" "I had dinner at Luciana's," I offered, watching her reaction carefully. "The tiramisu was excellent." A smile played at the corners of her mouth. "And the company?" I set down my pen. "You could have told me I was meeting your daughter." Victoria shrugged, unapologetic. "Would you have gone if I had?" "Probably not," I admitted. "Exactly." She sat down across from me. "Did you like her?" The directness of the question caught me off guard. Yes. "Emma is wonderful." Victoria's expression softened. "She is, isn't she?" She leaned forward. "Look, James, I didn't tell either of you about your connection to me because I wanted you both to meet without preconceptions. Emma has dated men who were only interested in her because of me, and you, well, you needed someone who would see past your work persona. I wanted to be angry at her manipulation, but I couldn't deny the results. It's still a conflict of interest. I work for you. Only if you let it become one," Victoria countered. "I'm not asking for details about your relationship, and I won't give Emma any special treatment at Meridian, not that she'd want it anyway. She's fiercely independent." "I noticed," I said, unable to keep the admiration from my voice. Victoria stood, apparently satisfied. "Good. Now, about the Nakamura proposal." Just like that, we were back to business. But something had changed, not just in my personal life, but in how I viewed Victoria. Behind the CEO facade was a mother who cared enough about her daughter to find someone she thought worthy of her. Over the next few weeks, Emma and I fell into a rhythm. We texted throughout the day and saw each other 3 or 4 nights a week. I learned that she stress-baked at midnight after difficult surgeries, that she spoke fluent Mandarin because she'd spent a year in China during medical school, and that despite her confident exterior, she worried constantly about living up to her mother's legacy. "It's not easy being Victoria Marshall's daughter," she confessed one night as we walked along the riverfront. "Everyone expects greatness." "You are great," I said, squeezing her hand. "Just in your own way." She smiled up at me. "That's why I like you, James. You see me, not my mother's shadow." I pulled her closer. "To be fair, you're pretty hard to miss." Our relationship progressed naturally, but we kept it quiet at Meridian. Emma rarely visited the office, and when she did, we maintained a professional distance. Victoria never asked about us directly, though I occasionally caught her watching me with a satisfied expression. Everything was perfect, until the Nakamura project imploded. Nakamura Technologies was supposed to be Meridian's biggest client yet, a Japanese firm expanding into the American market. I'd spent months on the proposal, and Victoria had personally vouched for me to lead the project. But 3 months in, everything fell apart when our lead developer quit without notice, taking crucial code with him. "We're going to lose them," Victoria said during an emergency meeting, her voice tight with controlled anger. 3 years of courting Nakamura, gone because Derek couldn't handle criticism. I sat at the conference table, surrounded by the anxious faces of my team. "We can salvage this," I insisted. "Give me 48 hours to rebuild the framework." Victoria shook her head. "It took Derek 6 weeks to build that code." "I can do it," I said with more confidence than I felt. "I'll bring in consultants if I have to, but we won't lose Nakamura." Victoria studied me for a long moment before nodding. 48 hours. Whatever resources you need." I didn't leave the office for the next 2 days. I called in favors from former colleagues, ordered in food for the team, and worked until my vision blurred. Emma texted several times, but I could only manage brief replies. By hour 47, we had a working prototype, not as elegant as Derek's original code, but functional. I presented it to Victoria with red-rimmed eyes and a 3-day beard. It's rough, I admitted, but it works. We can refine it after we secure Nakamura's commitment. Victoria reviewed the code, her expression unreadable. Finally, she looked up. You did it. The relief was so intense I had to grip the edge of her desk. We did it. The team was incredible. No, James. You did this. Victoria stood, her professional demeanor slipping to reveal genuine admiration. This is why I wanted you for Meridian. This dedication. I should have felt proud, but all I felt was exhaustion. Thank you. I should go home and shower before the Nakamura call. Victoria checked her watch. You have 6 hours. Go home, sleep for 4, then come back fresh. I nodded, too tired to argue. As I gathered my things, Victoria added, Emma's been worried about you. I paused. I know. I haven't been very responsive. She understands dedication to work better than most, Victoria said. But don't make her compete with Meridian for your attention. Trust me, that never ends well. There was something in her voice, a hint of old pain, that made me wonder about Emma's father, a subject neither of them ever discussed. I went home, set my alarm, and collapsed into bed. When I woke, I had 3 missed calls from Emma and a text. Mom told me what happened. I'm proud of you. Call me when you can. The Nakamura call went perfectly. They were impressed by our quick recovery and committed to continuing the project. The office erupted in celebration, but all I wanted was to see Emma. I found her at her apartment, still in her scrubs after a long shift. When she opened the door, her tired smile mirrored my own. Congratulations, hero, she said, pulling me inside. I'm sorry I disappeared on you, I said, following her to the couch. Emma shook her head. Don't apologize for doing your job well. She curled against me, her head on my shoulder. Mom called me, you know. To tell me how amazing you were. I blinked in surprise. She did? She doesn't give compliments easily. You must have really impressed her. I stroked Emma's hair, thinking about Victoria's warning not to make Emma compete with work. I missed you. Emma looked up at me, her eyes serious. James, I grew up with a mother who built an empire. I understand ambition and dedication. I'll never ask you to choose between your career and me. What if I want both? I asked quietly. She smiled. Then we figure it out together. That night, as Emma slept beside me, I realized how much my life had changed in just a few months. I'd gone from hiding behind my work to finding someone who understood both my ambition and my scars. All because Victoria Marshall had decided to meddle in my love life. The next 6 months were a balancing act. The Nakamura project demanded long hours, but I made sure Emma never felt secondary. We established routines, Tuesday night dinners no matter what, weekend mornings spent lingering over coffee, surprise lunches when our schedules aligned. Victoria maintained her professional distance at work, never mentioning my relationship with her daughter. But occasionally, when no one else was looking, she'd give me a small nod of approval that meant more than any formal recognition. Everything was perfect, until it wasn't. The crisis came from an unexpected direction. Emma was offered a fellowship at a prestigious children's hospital in Boston, a career-defining opportunity that would last 2 years. I haven't accepted yet, she told me over dinner at my apartment. I wanted to talk to you first. I set down my fork, my appetite gone. It's an amazing opportunity. It is, she agreed, watching me carefully. But we're amazing too. The old James would have retreated, would have seen this as another abandonment. But I wasn't that person anymore. We could try long distance, I suggested. I could visit on weekends, or maybe work remotely sometimes. Emma reached for my hand. Is that what you want? I took a deep breath. What I want is for you to take this fellowship because it's what you've worked for. And I want us to figure out how to make it work because I love you. It was the first time I'd said those words. It was the first time I'd said those words to her, and they hung in the air between us, both terrifying and liberating. Emma's eyes widened, then filled with tears. I love you too, she whispered, squeezing my hand. But I don't want to leave you. Then we'll find a way, I promised. Your career matters. This fellowship matters. That night, we talked until dawn about possibilities. Long-distance relationships were hard, but people made them work every day. We could alternate weekends, use vacation time strategically, and video call daily. The next morning, bleary-eyed but determined, I went to Victoria's office. I knocked once and entered, finding her reviewing quarterly reports. James, she said, looking up. I wasn't expecting you until the budget meeting. This isn't about work, I said, closing the door behind me. It's about Emma. Victoria set down her pen, her expression guarded. What about her? She's been offered a fellowship in Boston. I sat down across from her. It's an incredible opportunity. The Callahan Pediatric Fellowship, Victoria nodded. I heard. It's very prestigious. Of course she already knew. She's worried about us, about leaving me. Victoria studied me. And what did you tell her? That she should take it. That we'd make it work. Something shifted in Victoria's expression, a softening I rarely saw. That couldn't have been easy for you to say. Loving someone means supporting their dreams, I said simply. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. When Emma was 5, she broke her arm falling from a tree. The pediatric surgeon who treated her was so kind, so patient, that Emma decided then and there she wanted to be just like him. She smiled at the memory. She's never wavered from that path, not once. She's remarkable, I agreed. Yes, she is. Victoria leaned forward. James, I didn't just set you up with Emma because I thought you'd be good for her. I did it because I thought she'd be good for you. I blinked, surprised by her candor. You remind me of myself after my divorce, Victoria continued. All work, no life. Building walls instead of bridges. She sighed. Emma's father couldn't understand my ambition. He wanted a wife who would be home for dinner every night, not one building a company. I'm not like that, I said. I admire Emma's dedication. I know. Victoria's smile was genuine. That's why I'm going to offer you something I've never offered anyone else. My heart raced as she continued. Meridian is opening a satellite office in Boston next year. We need someone to oversee the transition and establish our presence there. She held my gaze. It would be a promotion, Vice President of East Coast Operations. I stared at her, speechless. Before you answer, Victoria added quickly, know that this isn't charity. You've earned this opportunity through your work, especially with Nakamura. The timing is convenient, but the offer is legitimate. I don't know what to say, I managed. Say you'll think about it, Victoria replied. Talk to Emma. Make sure it's what you both want. That evening, I told Emma about Victoria's offer. Her reaction wasn't what I expected. She's meddling again, Emma said, pacing my living room. She can't help herself. The offer makes business sense, I argued. Meridian has been talking about East Coast expansion for years. But the timing? Emma stopped pacing to look at me. James, I love that you're willing to try long distance. It shows me how much you care. But I don't want you uprooting your life for me, especially not because my mother orchestrated it. I crossed the room to take her hands. Emma, listen to me. Yes, the timing is suspicious. Yes, your mother probably has ulterior motives. But this is also a huge opportunity for my career. You'd really move to Boston? She asked, her voice small. For the right reasons, I said. For my career advancement, and yes, to be with you. Both matter to me. Emma searched my face. What if it doesn't work out? Between us, I mean. It was a fair question, one I'd asked myself. Then I'll still be the VP of East Coast operations for a growing tech company, I said with more confidence than I felt. But Emma, I believe in us. I wouldn't make this move if I didn't. She wrapped her arms around me, burying her face in my chest. I believe in us too. The next 6 months were a whirlwind of preparations. Emma accepted the fellowship and moved to Boston in June. I stayed behind to finish the Nakamura project and prepare for the satellite office launch in September. Those 3 months apart were harder than I'd anticipated. We video called daily and visited when possible, but it wasn't the same. I missed her laugh, her scent, the way she'd absently play with my hair while reading medical journals. Finally, September arrived. I packed up my apartment, said goodbye to my team, and boarded a plane to Boston with mixed emotions. Excitement about our reunion and my new role competed with anxiety about starting over, again. Emma met me at the airport, running into my arms the moment I cleared security. You're here, she breathed against my neck. You're really here. I'm really here, I confirmed, holding her tight. Our new life in Boston took adjustment. Emma's fellowship hours were grueling, and establishing Meridian's presence on the East Coast was more challenging than anticipated. There were nights when we barely saw each other, passing like ships in the night between her hospital shifts and my late conference calls with the West Coast office. But we made it work. We left notes for each other on the bathroom mirror, scheduled proper dates when our calendars aligned, and never went to bed angry, even if that meant staying up until 3 a.m. to resolve an argument. Victoria visited the Boston office monthly, maintaining her professional distance at work but joining us for dinner afterward. I watched her relationship with Emma evolve, becoming less strained as they found common ground in their shared dedication to their careers. 1 year into our Boston adventure, on a rare weekend when neither of us was working, I took Emma to the public garden. Fall had painted the trees in brilliant reds and golds, and the afternoon sun cast everything in a warm glow. Remember our first date? I asked as we strolled along the lagoon. Emma smiled. How could I forget? I was so nervous. You? Nervous? I laughed. You seemed completely composed. Years of practice hiding my feelings, she admitted. A survival skill when your mother is Victoria Marshall. I stopped walking, turning to face her. And now? Do you still hide your feelings? Emma's eyes softened. Not from you. Never from you. I took her hands in mine. Good, because I need you to be completely honest about how you feel about this. Before she could ask what I meant, I dropped to one knee, pulling a small velvet box from my pocket. Emma's hands flew to her mouth, her eyes wide. Emma Marshall, I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart, you walked into my life when I thought I was better off alone. You showed me that it's possible to be dedicated to your career and still have room for love. You make me laugh, you challenge me, and you've helped me build a life I never thought I'd have again. I opened the box, revealing the emerald-cut diamond ring inside. Will you marry me? Tears spilled down Emma's cheeks as she nodded. Yes, she whispered. Yes, James. As I slid the ring onto her finger, cheers erupted around us. I looked up to see a small crowd had gathered, smiling at our moment. Emma pulled me to my feet and into a kiss that promised a lifetime. Later that evening, after calling friends and family with our news, Emma asked, "Have you told my mother yet?" I shook my head. I wanted to tell her in person. Emma bit her lip. She's going to be insufferably smug, you know. Her matchmaking worked perfectly. I laughed, pulling her close. She can be as smug as she wants. She was right. The following week, Victoria flew to Boston for her monthly visit. We invited her to dinner at our apartment, where Emma nervously twisted her engagement ring as we waited for her arrival. "Relax," I said, kissing her forehead. "She'll be happy for us." "I know," Emma sighed. "I just hope she doesn't take all the credit." When Victoria arrived, she knew immediately. Her eyes went straight to Emma's hand, and a smile spread across her face. "Well," she said, setting down her purse, "it's about time." Emma rolled her eyes. "Hello to you too, Mom." Victoria embraced her daughter, then turned to me. "Congratulations, James. You've made an excellent choice." "I think so," I agreed, wrapping an arm around Emma's waist. Over dinner, Victoria surprised us both by raising her glass. "To finding love where you least expect it," she said, her eyes suspiciously bright. "And to having the courage to embrace it when you do." As we clinked glasses, I realized how far we'd all come. Victoria, the calculating CEO who'd orchestrated our meeting. Emma, the brilliant surgeon who'd taught me to balance ambition with heart. And me, the workaholic who'd learned that some risks were worth taking. "You know," Victoria said as we cleared the dishes, "I never told either of you why I was so determined to set you up." Emma and I exchanged glances. "Your meddling nature wasn't reason enough?" Emma teased. Victoria smiled, but there was something wistful in her expression. "When I was building Meridian, I let my marriage fall apart. I told myself it was because your father couldn't handle my success, but the truth is, I never tried to balance work and love. I chose work, every time." Emma stilled, rarely hearing her mother speak so candidly about her father. "When I met James," Victoria continued, "I saw someone making the same mistake. All work, no life." She looked at me. "And Emma, you were so focused on proving yourself that you weren't letting anyone in. So you played matchmaker," I said. Victoria shrugged. "I saw two people who could understand each other's drive without feeling threatened by it. Two people who deserved happiness but were too stubborn to find it on their own." Emma moved to hug her mother, a rare display of affection between them. "Thank you," she whispered. Later that night, as Emma slept beside me, I thought about the strange path that had led us here. A blind date arranged by my CEO. A relationship that survived career ambitions and geographical challenges. A future built on mutual respect and understanding. I'd once believed that work was the only thing that couldn't betray you, the only safe place to invest your heart. Emma had shown me otherwise. She'd taught me that the right person doesn't ask you to choose between love and ambition, they help you pursue both. As I drifted off to sleep, I made a mental note to thank Victoria properly. Her meddling had given me back something I thought I'd lost forever, the courage to love again. Sometimes the most unexpected beginnings lead to the most beautiful journeys. And sometimes, just sometimes, your boss really does know best. If you enjoyed this story of unexpected love and second chances, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more heartfelt stories that remind us life's best surprises often come when we least expect them. Share in the comments if you've ever had an unexpected matchmaker in your life. Sometimes the people who know us best can see what we can't.